Imagine standing in the most magnificent throne room on earth. Golden pillars reach toward painted ceilings. Silk curtains dance in the warm breeze. The scent of incense fills the air. In the distance, you hear music, harps, flutes, drums beating a steady rhythm. On a throne draped in purple sits the most powerful king the world has ever known. His name is Nebuchadnezzar. But tonight, something is about to happen that will change everything. Something that will bring this mighty king lower than anyone could imagine. This is the story of what happens when someone believes they're unstoppable. When power becomes pride. When a man thinks even the universe must bow to him. It's a story about losing everything. But it's also about something beautiful. Second chances. So get comfortable and let me take you back to ancient Babylon. To a night when everything changed. The year is 570 BC. The place is Babylon, in what we now call Iraq. Nebuchadnezzar has just conquered most of the known world. Think about that. Most of the known world. Every morning, he wakes knowing millions fear his name. Kings send him gifts, hoping he won't invade their kingdoms. His armies are unstoppable. His wealth is beyond measure. His city is called the jewel of the ancient world. He has everything: power, wealth, fame, glory. But something dangerous is growing inside him. Pride. Not healthy pride. This is different. This is the kind that makes you forget where you came from. The kind that whispers, "You did this alone. You're special. The rules don't apply to you." Tonight, as Nebuchadnezzar sleeps, that pride is about to be challenged. The palace is quiet. Guards stand at their posts. Everything seems peaceful, but something is stirring. A message is being prepared. A test is coming. And by tomorrow, everything will be different. That night, Nebuchadnezzar has a dream. Not just any dream, a vision so vivid, so terrifying, it makes his heart pound. He sees a massive tree reaching toward heaven. Its branches spread across the entire world. Birds nest in it. Animals shelter beneath it. Nations feed from its fruit. Then a voice from heaven shouts, "Cut it down!" The tree is chopped, branches scattered. Only a stump remains, bound in iron and bronze. And the voice says something that makes his blood run cold. Let him live like an animal. Let him eat grass like cattle for 7 years. Nebuchadnezzar wakes in a cold sweat. He calls for Daniel, the prophet. The only man who's ever correctly interpreted his dreams. Daniel listens, and his face goes pale. "Your Majesty," Daniel says carefully, "the dream is about you. The tree represents your kingdom, your power. But you've become too proud. You've forgotten that your power comes from above, not from yourself." Daniel's warning is clear. Humble yourself, or heaven will humble you. You have 12 months. Does Nebuchadnezzar listen? For a while, maybe. But pride has deep roots. 1 year passes. Nebuchadnezzar stands on his palace roof. Babylon stretches before him, golden and glorious. And then he says it, the words that seal his fate. "Look at this magnificent Babylon I have built, by my power, for my glory, to show my greatness." The words are still on his lips when it happens. A voice from heaven. "Your kingdom is taken from you." Something snaps in his mind. The king of Babylon drops to all fours. His eyes go wild. His mind breaks. He runs from the palace into the fields, and he starts eating grass, like an animal. For 7 years, the mighty Nebuchadnezzar lives like a beast. His hair grows long and wild. His nails become like claws. He crawls through fields, no longer recognizing his own name. The man who commanded armies now grazes like cattle. But after 7 long years, something changes. Nebuchadnezzar looks up, not at his kingdom or his accomplishments. He looks up to heaven, and finally, he understands. His power was never his own. His success was a gift. The moment he forgot that, everything was taken away. But when he humbles himself, when he acknowledges something greater than himself, his sanity returns, his mind clears. He walks back into his palace, not as a proud king, but as a grateful one. His kingdom is restored, but he's different now, wiser, humbler, better. He learned the hardest lesson. We are not the source of our own greatness. So why does this ancient story matter? Because we all have moments when we think we're unstoppable. When we forget that everything we have, our health, talents, opportunities, are gifts, not guarantees. Nebuchadnezzar's story reminds us to stay humble, stay grateful. Remember that no matter how high we climb, we're still human. And if we fall, there's always a way back. Chapter 2: The City That Touched the Stars. To understand what happens next, you need to see Babylon through Nebuchadnezzar's eyes. Imagine you're standing on the highest terrace of the royal palace. The sun is setting, painting the sky in shades of orange and gold. Below, you stretch as the greatest city ever built. The walls of Babylon are so thick that 3 chariots can ride side by side on top of them. They stretch for miles, protecting hundreds of thousands of people. Towers rise at regular intervals, each one manned by soldiers who watch for enemies that rarely come anymore. Because everyone knows, you don't attack Babylon. Babylon attacks you. Inside the walls, the city buzzes with life. Markets overflow with goods from every corner of the world. Silk from distant lands. Spices that make your mouth water just smelling them. Gold, silver, precious stones that sparkle in the sunlight. But the true wonder of Babylon hangs in the air itself. The hanging gardens. Some people in ancient times said they were one of the 7 wonders of the world. Imagine a mountain of green rising from the desert. Terraces stacked on terraces, each one filled with trees, flowers, and plants from every climate imaginable. Water flows down from the highest point, creating waterfalls and streams. The scent of jasmine and roses drifts across the city. Nebuchadnezzar built them, people say, for a wife who missed the green hills of her homeland. But really, he built them to prove he could, to show the world that nothing was impossible for him. If nature didn't give Babylon mountains, he would build them. If the desert didn't produce gardens, he would create them. The Ishtar Gate dominates the northern entrance to the city. It's covered in brilliant blue tiles, decorated with golden lions and dragons. When the sun hits it just right, it seems to glow with inner fire. People traveling from far away see it and fall to their knees, not from religious devotion, from pure awe. The Temple of Marduk rises in the center of the city. This is where the priests perform their ceremonies, where they worship the gods of Babylon. The temple tower, called a ziggurat, climbs toward the sky in giant steps. Some people call it the Tower of Babel. 7 levels, each one painted a different color. At the very top sits a shrine covered in gold. And walking through all of this, inspecting his creation, is King Nebuchadnezzar. He's not a young man anymore. His beard, carefully groomed and oiled, shows streaks of gray. His hands, once smooth, now show the scars of old battles. But his eyes, his eyes still burn with ambition, with pride, with the absolute certainty that he is the greatest man who ever lived. Every day, he walks through his palace, through his gardens, through his city, and every day, the same thought runs through his mind. I built this. With my own hands, my own mind, my own power, I created the greatest civilization on earth. He passes servants who bow so low their foreheads touch the ground. He sees soldiers who would die at his command without hesitation. He watches priests who declare him the favorite of the gods, and he believes it all. But here's something interesting, something that makes this story so powerful. Deep in the palace, there's another man, a captive, a foreigner, someone who came to Babylon not by choice, but as a prisoner of war. His name is Daniel. Daniel is from Jerusalem, from the land of Judah. When Nebuchadnezzar's armies conquered that city years ago, they took the best and brightest young people back to Babylon. Daniel was one of them. He's been trained in Babylonian ways, taught their language, even given a Babylonian name. But Daniel never forgot where he came from. More importantly, he never forgot his God. And this creates a fascinating tension in the palace, because Daniel has a gift. He can interpret dreams. He can see meanings that others miss. And Nebuchadnezzar, despite all his pride, knows that Daniel speaks truth. This makes the king uncomfortable, because Daniel doesn't worship him. Daniel doesn't tell him what he wants to hear. Daniel serves a God that Nebuchadnezzar doesn't fully understand. A God who claims to be above all other gods, above all kings, above even mighty Nebuchadnezzar himself. The king dismisses such ideas. After all, look at what he's accomplished. If this God was so powerful, why did Nebuchadnezzar conquer Jerusalem? Why did he take the sacred objects from their temple and put them in the temple of Marduk? Doesn't that prove who's really in charge? This is what Nebuchadnezzar thinks as he walks through his palace on this particular evening. The same evening he's about to have the dream that will change everything. The sun sets fully now. Torches are lit throughout the city. From his terrace, the king can see thousands of lights flickering in the darkness. Each light represents a family, a household, people whose lives depend on his decisions. He should feel responsible. He should feel humble. But he doesn't. He feels invincible. All of this, he whispers to the night sky. All of this is because of me. And somewhere, in a realm beyond human seeing, that statement is heard. The test is about to begin. If you're finding this story fascinating, take a second to hit the like button. It helps more people discover these incredible historical tales. And trust me, what happens next is absolutely mind-blowing. Chapter 3. The Dream That Shook a Palace. Nebuchadnezzar falls asleep that night like any other night. His bed is comfortable beyond imagining. Silk sheets, soft pillows, the distant sound of fountains in the garden creating a peaceful rhythm. But his sleep is anything but peaceful. A dream comes to him, not a normal dream. This one has a quality he's never experienced before. It's vivid, crystal clear, so real that he can feel the wind on his face, smell the earth, hear every sound with perfect clarity. In the dream, he sees a tree. But this isn't just any tree. This tree is massive, huge beyond belief. Its trunk is wider than a house. Its branches spread so far they seem to cover the entire world. The leaves are thick and green, providing shade for miles around. And the tree keeps growing, higher and higher, up and up, until its top reaches the clouds, until it seems to touch heaven itself. Under this enormous tree, animals find shelter. Lions rest in its shade. Deer drink from streams that flow near its roots. Birds of every color nest in its branches, singing songs that fill the air with beauty. And from the tree hang fruits. Not just a few fruits, but thousands of them, millions of them, enough to feed every creature on earth. People come from distant lands to gather these fruits. No one goes hungry. There's always enough. The tree is perfect, strong, beautiful, seemingly eternal. In his dream, Nebuchadnezzar feels pride as he looks at this tree. Because somehow, in that strange way dreams work, he knows that the tree represents something important, something magnificent, something powerful. But then everything changes. A figure appears in the sky, bright, powerful, terrifying. The figure's voice booms like thunder. Cut down the tree, chop off its branches, strip off its leaves, scatter its fruit. Let the animals flee from under it and the birds from its branches. Nebuchadnezzar watches in horror as other beings appear. They move with purpose, with authority. They carry axes that shine like fire, and they begin to swing those axes at the mighty tree. Crack, crack, crack. Each blow echoes like an earthquake. The tree shudders, its leaves begin to fall. The animals scatter in terror. The birds fly away. The people who were gathering fruit run in every direction. Crash. The tree falls. The sound is deafening. The impact shakes the ground. Branches snap and scatter across the land. Fruit rolls away and rots. Everything that was beautiful about the tree is destroyed in moments. But the beings don't stop there. They cut away all the branches. They strip off every leaf. They remove everything until only a stump remains. Just the base of the trunk, stuck in the ground. Dead, broken, useless. Then something strange happens. The beings place a band of iron and bronze around the stump, as if they're protecting it, or imprisoning it. Nebuchadnezzar can't tell which. And then the voice speaks again. This time, the words make the king's blood run cold. Let him be drenched with the dew of heaven. Let him live with the animals among the plants of the earth. Let his mind be changed from that of a man, and let him be given the mind of an animal. Let 7 times pass by for him. In the dream, Nebuchadnezzar watches as the stump transforms. It's no longer just wood. It's alive, conscious, suffering, and somehow he knows. The stump is him. He tries to scream, but no sound comes out. He tries to run, but his feet won't move. He can only watch as the voice continues. This decision is announced by messengers. This verdict is declared by holy ones, so that everyone living may know that the Most High is sovereign over all kingdoms on earth and gives them to anyone he wishes, even to the lowliest of people. The dream ends with those words echoing in Nebuchadnezzar's mind. The Most High is sovereign. The Most High is sovereign. The Most High is sovereign. He wakes up gasping, sweating. His heart pounds so hard he thinks it might burst from his chest. His hands shake as he grips the sheets. What was that? What did it mean? Servants rush into the room, alarmed by the sounds the king is making. Your Majesty, are you ill? Should we call the physicians? Nebuchadnezzar waves them away. No, no physicians. Send for the magicians, the enchanters, the astrologers, the diviners. Send for all of them, now. The servants scatter. Within the hour, the throne room is filled with every wise man in Babylon. They stand nervously, whispering among themselves. The king has summoned them in the middle of the night. This must be serious. Nebuchadnezzar sits on his throne, but he's not relaxed. He's leaning forward, tense, his eyes darting from face to face. When he speaks, his voice is harsh. I had a dream that has terrified me. I need to know what it means. Tell me. He describes the dream in detail. The massive tree, the voice from heaven, the cutting down, the stump, the pronouncement about living like an animal. Every word, every image, everything he can remember. The wise men listen carefully. They stroke their beards. They murmur to each other. They consult their books and their charts. But none of them say anything. The silence grows heavy, awkward, frightening. Finally, Nebuchadnezzar can't take it anymore. Well, what does it mean? Someone tell me what this dream means. But the wise men just look at each other nervously. Some shake their heads, others stare at the ground. Not one of them offers an interpretation, because the truth is, they're terrified. The dream is so obviously a bad omen, so clearly a warning about the king himself. And who wants to be the one to tell the most powerful man in the world that he's about to fall? So they remain silent. And with every second of silence, Nebuchadnezzar's fear grows into anger. "You're supposed to be the wisest men in Babylon," he shouts. "And you can't tell me what a simple dream means? What good are you?" One old magician dares to speak. "Your Majesty, perhaps this is a dream that requires special interpretation. Perhaps we should call for Daniel." Daniel. The name hangs in the air. Everyone knows Daniel, the Hebrew captive. The young man who interprets dreams better than anyone else in the kingdom. The one who sees things others can't see. Nebuchadnezzar doesn't want to admit he needs Daniel. It bothers him that a captive, a foreigner, someone who worships a different god, has abilities that his own Babylonian wise men don't possess. But he's also terrified, and he needs answers. "Fine," he says through gritted teeth. "Bring me Daniel." And with those words, everything is about to change. Because Daniel isn't going to tell Nebuchadnezzar what he wants to hear. Daniel is going to tell him the truth. And sometimes, the truth is the most terrifying thing of all. Take a moment to comment below if you're enjoying this story. Your engagement helps this content reach more people who need to hear these powerful historical lessons. Chapter 4. When the mighty fall silent, Daniel enters the throne room with quiet confidence. He's not an old man, but he carries himself with wisdom beyond his years. His eyes are calm. His expression is peaceful. While everyone else in the room looks nervous and afraid, Daniel seems at ease. This only irritates Nebuchadnezzar more. How can this captive be so calm when the greatest king on earth is terrified? "Daniel," the king says, trying to keep his voice steady, "I'm told you have the spirit of the holy gods in you, that no mystery is too difficult for you to solve. I had a dream, and these useless men around me can't tell me what it means. But you can. It's not a question, it's a command." Daniel bows respectfully. "Tell me the dream, Your Majesty." So Nebuchadnezzar tells the story again. The tree, the voice, the cutting down, the 7 times. With every word, he watches Daniel's face, looking for some reaction, some sign of what the dream means. And he sees it, just a flicker. Daniel's expression changes for a moment. Shock, concern, maybe even sadness. Then it's gone, replaced by careful neutrality. But Nebuchadnezzar saw it, and now he's even more afraid. "Well," he demands, What does it mean? Speak. Daniel is quiet for a long moment. When he finally speaks, his voice is gentle, almost apologetic. My lord, if only the dream applied to your enemies and its meaning to your adversaries. But he pauses, takes a breath. The tree you saw, which grew large and strong, with its top touching the sky, visible to the whole earth. That tree is you, your majesty. The throne room goes completely silent. You could hear a pin drop. Every wise man holds their breath. Some look away, not wanting to witness what might happen next. But Daniel continues, speaking with respectful firmness. You have become great and strong. Your greatness has grown until it reaches the sky. Your dominion extends to distant parts of the earth. But the Most High has issued a decree against you, my king. You will be driven away from people and will live with the wild animals. You will eat grass like the ox and be drenched with the dew of heaven. 7 times will pass by for you until you acknowledge that the Most High is sovereign over all kingdoms on earth and gives them to anyone he wishes. Each word lands like a hammer blow. Nebuchadnezzar's face goes through a series of expressions: shock, disbelief, anger, fear. But Daniel isn't finished. His next words carry a tiny spark of hope. But the command to leave the stump of the tree with its roots means that your kingdom will be restored to you when you acknowledge that heaven rules. Therefore, your majesty, please accept my advice. Renounce your sins by doing what is right. Renounce your wickedness by being kind to the oppressed. Then perhaps your prosperity will continue. The offer is clear. Change now. Choose humility. Show mercy. And maybe, just maybe, this terrible prophecy won't come true. For a long moment, Nebuchadnezzar just stares at Daniel. Part of him wants to rage, to order this insolent captive thrown into prison, or worse. But another part of him, a small part he barely acknowledges, knows that Daniel is telling the truth. He's heard it in his own heart. He's felt the warning in his own spirit. Still, pride is a powerful thing. And Nebuchadnezzar has spent decades building his pride, brick by brick, conquest by conquest, until it's become an inseparable part of who he is. You're dismissed, he finally says. His voice is cold, controlled. All of you, leave me. The wise men practically run from the throne room. Daniel bows and turns to go, but he pauses at the doorway, looking back at the king with an expression of genuine concern. Then he's gone, and Nebuchadnezzar is alone. Here's what makes this moment so powerful, so universally relatable. The king has just been given a clear warning, a chance to change, an opportunity to avoid disaster, and he's choosing to ignore it. How many times do we do the same thing? How many times do we feel that internal warning, that sense that we're heading in the wrong direction, and we push it aside? We tell ourselves we're fine, we're in control, we know what we're doing. Nebuchadnezzar spends the rest of the night pacing his room. The dream replays in his mind over and over. The tree falling, the voice declaring judgment, the prediction that he'll live like an animal. But by morning, he's convinced himself it was nothing, just a bad dream, just Daniel's interpretation, nothing more. The days pass, then weeks, then months, and nothing happens. See, here's the thing about warnings. When we ignore them and nothing bad happens immediately, we think we've gotten away with it. We think the warning was wrong, or that the rules don't apply to us, or that we're special enough to escape the consequences. Nebuchadnezzar falls into this trap completely. As each day passes without incident, he becomes more confident, more assured that Daniel was wrong, that the dream didn't mean what he thought it meant. He returns to his old ways, walking through his palace, admiring his city, taking credit for everything. His pride doesn't shrink, it grows, it expands, it takes up more and more space in his heart until there's room for nothing else. The servants notice, the nobles whisper, even some of his wives comment on how he's become more arrogant, more boastful, more insufferable. But no one dares to confront him, because he's the king, and kings don't take kindly to criticism. 12 months pass, a full year since the dream, a full year since Daniel's warning, and Nebuchadnezzar is walking on the roof of his palace. It's late afternoon. The sun is setting, casting a golden glow over Babylon. The city looks more beautiful than ever. The gardens are in full bloom. The walls gleam white in the sunlight. The temple towers shine with their decorations of gold and lapis lazuli. The king stands there, taking it all in, and that old familiar pride wells up inside him, stronger than ever. He opens his mouth, and he speaks words that seal his fate. Is not this the great Babylon I have built as the royal residence, by my mighty power and for the glory of my majesty? The words are barely out of his mouth when it happens. A voice, not from earth, from somewhere beyond, loud, clear, undeniable. This is what is decreed for you, King Nebuchadnezzar. Your royal authority has been taken from you. You will be driven away from people and will live with the wild animals. You will eat grass like the ox. 7 times will pass by for you until you acknowledge that the Most High is sovereign over all kingdoms on earth and gives them to anyone he wishes. And immediately, at that very moment, everything changes. If this story is keeping you engaged, please share it with friends who might enjoy it too. Stories like this deserve to be heard, and what happens next is absolutely shocking. Chapter 5. 7 Seasons of Madness. The transformation doesn't happen gradually. It happens immediately, instantly. One moment, Nebuchadnezzar is the king of Babylon, standing on his palace roof, master of all he surveys. The next moment, his mind simply breaks. Imagine what this feels like. 1 second, you're you. Your thoughts are clear. You know who you are, where you are, what you're doing. You have plans, memories, a sense of self. Then, in the space between one heartbeat and the next, all of that vanishes. Your thoughts scatter like birds startled by a sudden noise. You try to grab onto them, but they slip away. You try to remember who you are, but the answer won't come. You look at your hands and don't recognize them as yours, and something else takes over. Something primal, instinctive, animal. The guards on the roof watch in horror as their king's expression changes. His eyes, once sharp and calculating, become wild, confused, fearful. He drops to his hands and knees. He makes a sound, not a word, not a sentence, a sound, something between a cry and a growl. "Your Majesty," one guard ventures cautiously. "Are you well?" But Nebuchadnezzar doesn't respond, can't respond. He doesn't understand the words. They're just noise to him now. He looks at the guard with the same incomprehension that a dog might show when you speak to it. He scrambles away from them on all fours. He's trying to escape, trying to find safety. His fine royal robes tangle around his legs. He claws at them, ripping the fabric. The golden crown falls from his head and clatters across the stone floor. More guards arrive. They try to restrain him gently, thinking he's having some kind of fit that will pass. But Nebuchadnezzar fights them with surprising strength. He bites, he scratches, he thrashes like a trapped animal. "Get the physicians," someone shouts. "The king has gone mad." But the physicians can do nothing. They've never seen anything like this. They try their potions, their herbs, their incantations. Nothing works. The king doesn't even seem to see them. He's curled in a corner now, rocking back and forth, making those inhuman sounds. Daniel arrives. He takes one look at the scene and knows. This is what the dream predicted. This is the judgment that was pronounced. And it's going to last exactly as long as the Most High decreed. 7 times, 7 years. The palace erupts into controlled chaos. What do? Do they hide the king? Do they announce what's happened? Do they put someone else on the throne? The nobles gather for an emergency council. They argue in hushed, urgent voices. Some want to declare the king dead and move on. Others insist they must protect him, wait for him to recover. A few suggest that this is divine punishment and they shouldn't interfere. It's Daniel who provides the solution. In his calm, authoritative way, he explains what must happen. The king's condition is temporary. 7 times must pass. Until then, they will care for him, but not on the throne. He will be taken from the palace, placed somewhere safe, and the kingdom will continue under the leadership of trusted administrators. And they must not harm him. Despite everything, despite his madness, despite how far he's fallen, he's still the king. And when his time of judgment is complete, he will return. Most of the nobles don't really believe this last part. How could someone this far gone ever recover? But they respect Daniel, and they're afraid of the God who brought this about. So they agree. Nebuchadnezzar is taken from the palace, not imprisoned, not locked away, but removed to a place where he won't hurt himself or others. A place with open fields, water, food, the basic needs of survival. And there, the mighty king of Babylon begins his new life. The first few days are the worst. He's confused, terrified. He doesn't understand what's happened to him. Sometimes, brief flashes of human awareness break through. In those moments, he knows something is terribly wrong. But then the animal nature takes over again, and the awareness fades. He learns to survive on pure instinct. When he's hungry, he eats whatever he can find. At first, servants bring him food, cooked meat, bread, fruit, but he doesn't recognize them as food. Instead, he drops to the ground and begins eating grass, leaves, whatever plants he finds growing in the field. It should kill him. Human beings can't survive on grass. Our stomachs aren't designed for it. But somehow, impossibly, he lives. Because this isn't a natural condition. It's a supernatural judgment. And part of that judgment is that he must survive it. He must live through every day of the 7 times that were decreed. The seasons change. Summer heat gives way to autumn cool. Then winter comes, and Nebuchadnezzar has no shelter. He should freeze, but he doesn't. He grows a thick coat of hair, like an animal adapting to cold weather. His fingernails grow long and curved, almost like claws. His toenails do the same. He sleeps outside. He gets drenched by rain and covered with morning dew. He lives among the wild animals, and they don't fear him. Because to them, he's not a human anymore. He's just another creature trying to survive. In the city, life goes on. The people of Babylon learn what happened to their king. Some are shocked. Some are secretly pleased. Some are deeply afraid of the God who could do such a thing. The temple priests stop making sacrifices to the king. How can you worship someone who eats grass in a field? The statues that showed Nebuchadnezzar's face are quietly removed. The songs that praised his might are no longer sung. But the kingdom doesn't fall apart. Daniel and the other administrators keep things running. Taxes are collected. Laws are enforced. The army maintains the borders. Life continues. And in a field outside the great city, a man who was once a king continues his strange existence. Years pass. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Nebuchadnezzar stops looking like a human at all. His hair grows long and matted, hanging down his back like feathers. His beard becomes a tangled mess. His skin, constantly exposed to sun and weather, turns dark and leathery. He moves on all fours most of the time, finding it more natural than walking upright. The servants who check on him from a distance wonder if there's anything human left inside that wild creature. They wonder if Daniel was wrong, if maybe the king will never recover, if maybe this is just who he is now. But Daniel never doubts. He knows the ways of the Most High. He knows that when 7 times have passed, exactly as predicted, the king will be restored. Not because he deserves it, but because that's what was decreed. Because there's a purpose to all of this, a lesson that needs to be learned. And finally, after 7 long years, something begins to change. It starts small. One morning, Nebuchadnezzar is grazing in a field, eating the morning grass wet with dew. When he pauses, he lifts his head. He looks around with an expression that's different from anything he's shown in 7 years. There's a spark in his eyes, a glimmer of awareness. Something is waking up inside him, something that's been sleeping for a very long time. The madness is beginning to lift. The judgment is approaching its end. The 7 times are almost complete. And what happens next will prove that the Most High truly does rule over the kingdoms of men. Chapter 6. The field where kings become men. The morning of the change is like any other morning for Nebuchadnezzar, or at least it starts that way. He wakes as the sun rises, his body stiff from sleeping on the hard ground. For 7 years, this has been his life. Sleeping under stars, eating grass, living without thought beyond basic survival. His mind has been locked away, inaccessible, like a room in a house whose door has been sealed shut. But this morning, something is different. He's grazing near a small stream, the way he's done thousands of times before. The grass is wet with dew. The water makes a gentle sound as it flows over smooth stones. Birds are singing in the nearby trees. It's peaceful, quiet. And then, without warning, a thought breaks through. A real, complete, human thought. What am I doing? It's such a simple question. But it's the first real question Nebuchadnezzar has asked himself in 7 years. And with that question comes a flood of awareness. He stops moving. His body freezes. His mind, dormant for so long, suddenly begins to wake up. It's like watching a sunrise in fast motion. Darkness giving way to light. Confusion giving way to clarity. He lifts his head. But this time, it's different. This time, he's not looking around with animal wariness, checking for threats. He's looking with human awareness, with understanding, with the dawning realization of what's happened to him. And then he remembers. Everything comes rushing back. The palace, the throne, his kingdom, his pride, the dream, Daniel's warning. the last words he spoke before it all changed. "Is not this the great Babylon I have built by my mighty power and for the glory of my majesty? Oh no." He looks down at himself, at his hands covered in dirt with nails like claws, at his body, thin and weathered, at the grass stains around his mouth. He touches his face and feels the matted, tangled beard, the long, unkempt hair. A sound escapes from his throat. This time, it's entirely human. A cry of shock, of horror, of sudden, devastating understanding. He's been living like an animal. For how long? He doesn't know. Time has no meaning when you have no awareness. It could be days, it could be years, but somehow he knows it's been a very long time. And he remembers why. The Most High is sovereign over all kingdoms on earth and gives them to anyone he wishes. That's what the voice said. The voice he heard right before everything went dark. The voice that pronounced judgment on his pride. Nebuchadnezzar does something he hasn't done in 7 years. Something he hasn't really done in longer than that, if he's honest. He lifts his eyes toward heaven, not with defiance, not with pride, but with recognition, with acknowledgement, with the kind of humility that only comes from being utterly broken. And in that moment, something miraculous happens. His mind doesn't just return to him, it returns better, clearer, like it's been cleaned of years of accumulated debris. The fog lifts, the confusion evaporates, understanding flows in like water breaking through a dam. He sees himself as he really was, not the great king he imagined himself to be, not the self-made ruler who built an empire through his own strength. He sees a man who was given power, who was placed in his position, who was allowed to succeed by someone far greater than himself. Tears stream down his face. They cut through 7 years of accumulated dirt. For the first time in longer than he can remember, Nebuchadnezzar weeps, not from fear, not from anger, but from gratitude, from relief, from the overwhelming recognition that he's been given a second chance he doesn't deserve. He tries to speak. At first, only rough sounds come out. His voice hasn't formed words in 7 years. His throat has forgotten how, but he keeps trying. And finally, words emerge. Broken, rough, but words nonetheless. I praise the Most High. I honor, I glorify the one who lives forever. Each word is an effort, but he keeps going, because these are the most important words he's ever spoken. More important than any decree, more important than any proclamation of his own greatness. These are words of truth, of recognition, of surrender. His dominion is eternal. His kingdom endures from generation to generation. All the peoples of the earth are nothing compared to him. He does as he pleases with the powers of heaven and the peoples of the earth. No one can hold back his hand or say to him, "What have you done?" The words grow stronger. His voice becomes clearer. It's as if speaking these truths is healing him further, restoring more than just his mind, restoring his very humanity. From a distance, one of the servants who's been assigned to check on the king sees what's happening. He can't believe his eyes. The wild man who's lived in the fields for 7 years is standing upright, speaking, crying. The servant runs back to the city. He bursts into the palace, gasping for breath. Daniel, you must come. The king, he's speaking. He's himself again." Daniel doesn't seem surprised. He simply nods, as if he's been expecting this news. "Prepare a chariot," he says calmly, "and bring clean clothes. the king will be returning home. When Daniel arrives at the field, he finds Nebuchadnezzar sitting by the stream, washing himself. The king is crying as he scrubs away 7 years of dirt and grime, but they're not tears of shame, they're tears of gratitude. He looks up as Daniel approaches. Their eyes meet, and Nebuchadnezzar sees something in the prophet's face. Not judgment, not, "I told you so," just compassion, understanding, perhaps even joy that the ordeal is finally over. "Daniel," the king says, his voice is hoarse but clear, "you were right about everything, the dream, the warning, the judgment, and the restoration. All of it happened exactly as you said it would." Daniel bows respectfully. "Not as I said, Your Majesty. As the Most High declared, I was merely the messenger." "The Most High," Nebuchadnezzar repeats. He says the words with reverence now, with awe. "I spent my entire life thinking I was the highest, that my power was supreme, that I built everything with my own hands. But I was wrong about all of it." He stands up. His body is weak from 7 years of living like an animal, but there's strength in his spirit that wasn't there before. A different kind of strength, not the strength of pride and conquest, the strength of humility and truth. "Take me home," he says. "I have much to do, much to say. The world needs to know what I've learned." As they travel back to Babylon, Nebuchadnezzar looks at his city with new eyes. The walls are still impressive. The gardens are still beautiful. The temple towers still gleam in the sunlight. But he sees them differently now. They're not monuments to his greatness. They're evidence of the resources he was given, the workers he was provided, the circumstances that allowed him to build. He was the instrument. But he was never the source. The gates of Babylon open. Word has spread impossibly fast. The king is returning. The king is restored. People line the streets, silent in their amazement. They don't know whether to bow or to stare. This man looks like their king, but he also looks like someone who's been through something they can't imagine. Nebuchadnezzar doesn't return to the palace with fanfare. He walks quietly through the streets. And the first place he goes isn't to his throne room. It's to a simple room where he can be alone, where he can think, where he can process everything that's happened. Because his restoration isn't complete yet. He has his mind back. He has his understanding back. But there's one more thing he needs to do. One more crucial step in his transformation. He needs to tell his story. Chapter 7. The moment everything shifted. Nebuchadnezzar stands in his private chamber, looking at himself in a polished bronze mirror. The servants have bathed him, cut his hair, trimmed his beard. He looks like a king again on the outside. But inside, he's someone completely different from the man who stood in this same room 7 years ago. His advisors are waiting. The nobles want an audience. The priests are demanding explanations. The whole kingdom is buzzing with questions. What happened to the king? Where has he been? Why did he leave? Will he punish those who governed in his absence? But before he faces any of them, Nebuchadnezzar does something unexpected. He calls for scribes, and he begins to dictate. To all peoples, nations, and languages that dwell in all the earth, he begins. Peace be multiplied to you. I thought it good to declare the signs and wonders that the Most High God has worked for me. The scribes write furiously, trying to keep up. This isn't what they expected. They thought they'd be recording decrees about taxes or laws or military campaigns, not a personal testimony, not a confession. But Nebuchadnezzar has learned something in those 7 years. The most powerful thing a person can do isn't to hide their failures. It's to speak honestly about them, to let others learn from your mistakes, to turn your humiliation into a teaching moment. So he tells the whole story, everything, the dream, Daniel's interpretation, his refusal to humble himself, the words he spoke on the palace roof, the immediate judgment, the 7 years of madness, the moment of restoration, all of it. He doesn't sugarcoat anything. He doesn't try to make himself look good. He describes eating grass like an ox, living with wild animals, losing his mind completely, because the point isn't to preserve his dignity. The point is to tell the truth. At the end of that time, he dictates, I, Nebuchadnezzar, raised my eyes toward heaven, and my sanity was restored. Then I praised the Most High. I honored and glorified him who lives forever. The scribes glance at each other. They've never written anything like this. A king admitting he was wrong. A king praising a foreign god above the gods of Babylon. A king confessing to madness and humiliation. But they keep writing, because there's something compelling about what Nebuchadnezzar is saying. Something authentic. Something that rings true in a way that royal propaganda never does. He concludes with words that will echo through history. Now I, Nebuchadnezzar, praise and exalt and glorify the King of heaven, because everything he does is right and all his ways are just. And those who walk in pride, he is able to humble. Those who walk in pride, he is able to humble. It's a warning. But it's also an invitation to learn from his experience, to choose humility before it's forced upon you, to recognize the truth before you have to be broken to see it. When he's finished, he orders copies made and sent to every corner of his kingdom, not as a decree, as a letter, as one person sharing their story with another. Then, and only then, does he go to the throne room. The room is packed. Nobles, officials, military commanders, priests, everyone who's anyone in Babylon is there. They've been debating for days about what will happen when the king returns. Will there be executions, rewards, political reshuffling? But when Nebuchadnezzar enters, he doesn't look angry. He doesn't look vengeful. He looks peaceful. There's no other word for it. Despite everything he's been through, he radiates a kind of peace that wasn't there before. He sits on the throne. But this time, it's different. He doesn't lounge on it like it's his by right. He sits with respect, like he's been given the responsibility of this seat. And he takes that responsibility seriously. Daniel stands to his right, where the chief advisor always stands. Nebuchadnezzar looks at him and nods slightly, a gesture of respect, of gratitude, of acknowledgement that this man spoke truth when everyone else was too afraid to do so. Then he addresses the assembly. Many of you are wondering what happened to me, he begins. You've heard rumors, speculation, stories. I'm here to tell you the truth. And he does. He tells them the same story he dictated to the scribes. He doesn't hide his pride, his arrogance, his foolish belief that he was responsible for all his success. He tells them how he was warned and how he ignored that warning. The room is completely silent. No one coughs. No one shifts in their seat. Everyone is transfixed. For 7 years, he says, I lived as less than human, because I had acted as more than human. I thought I was like a god, so I was reduced to less than a man. And in that reduction, I learned the most important lesson of my life. He pauses, letting the words sink in. Everything I thought I built, I didn't build. Everything I thought I accomplished, I didn't accomplish. Not on my own. I was given gifts, opportunities, resources, circumstances. And yes, I made choices and took actions. But the source of my power was never me. It was the Most High, the God of heaven and earth, who placed me in this position for his purposes. Some of the nobles look uncomfortable. The priests of Marduk look downright alarmed. This is heresy against the traditional gods of Babylon. This is the king declaring allegiance to a foreign deity. But no one dares speak against him, because there's something undeniable about what he's saying. Something that explains what happened to him better than any other interpretation. From this day forward, Nebuchadnezzar continues, I rule this kingdom with full understanding of where my authority comes from. Not from my own strength, not from my armies or my wealth, but from the one who grants power to kings and removes it as he sees fit. He stands up. Those of you who served faithfully in my absence, you will be honored and rewarded. Those of you who kept this kingdom functioning when I could not, you have my gratitude. I return to my throne not to undo what you've done, but to continue it with wisdom I didn't possess before. It's not the speech anyone expected, but it's the speech they needed to hear. Because if this can happen to Nebuchadnezzar, the most powerful man in the world, it can happen to anyone. Pride is not just a danger for the weak, it's especially a danger for the strong, for the successful, for those who forget that their success depended on factors beyond their control. The assembly bows, not just in obedience, but in respect, because the man who's returned to them isn't diminished by his ordeal, he's enhanced by it. He's wiser, more measured, more just. And as word of this speech spreads through Babylon, something remarkable happens. People don't lose respect for their king, they gain respect for him. Because humility, when it's genuine, is more impressive than pride ever was. Share this story if it's resonating with you. These ancient lessons are more relevant today than ever, and we're approaching the powerful conclusion. Chapter 8. A throne transformed by humility. The days following Nebuchadnezzar's return are unlike anything Babylon has ever experienced. The king who comes back is not the king who left. The old Nebuchadnezzar would start each day reviewing his accomplishments, walking through his palace and reminding himself of his greatness, making sure everyone knew that he was responsible for the glory of Babylon. The new Nebuchadnezzar starts each day differently. He rises early and goes to a quiet place, sometimes a garden, sometimes a rooftop, always somewhere he can see the sky. And there, before he does anything else, he takes time to remember, not his accomplishments, but his lesson. He remembers the field, the grass, the rain, the complete loss of everything that made him human. And he remembers the moment when it all came back, when mercy triumphed over judgment, when he was given something he didn't deserve and couldn't earn. That memory keeps him grounded. It keeps him humble. It reminds him every single day that he rules only because he's been allowed to rule, not because he's special, not because he's better than everyone else, but because he's been given a role to play in a much larger story. His leadership style changes dramatically. The old Nebuchadnezzar made decisions based on what would increase his glory. The new Nebuchadnezzar asks different questions. What will serve the people? What will create justice? What honors the one who gave him this position? He starts spending time with Daniel regularly, not just to ask for interpretations of dreams, but to learn, to understand the ways of the God who humbled him and restored him. He asks questions like a student, not like a king who's pretending to be interested. "Tell me about this God you serve," he says one day. "The one who has power over kings and kingdoms. The one who can take a mind away and give it back. I need to understand him better." Daniel is patient. He explains what he knows. He tells stories from the ancient texts of his people. Stories about a God who created everything, who called a people to himself, who made promises and kept them, who was both just and merciful, who could be completely trusted even when his ways didn't make immediate sense. Nebuchadnezzar listens like his life depends on it, because in a way, it does. He's been given a second chance, but he knows, deep in his bones, that second chances come with responsibility. The responsibility to live differently, to be different, to learn from what happened and let it truly change you. The changes ripple through the entire kingdom. The nobles notice that the king no longer demands constant praise. The servants notice that he treats them with more respect. The people notice that his decrees are more focused on justice and less focused on building monuments to himself. Does this make him weak? Some worry about that. Some wonder if a humble king can still be an effective king. If you don't project strength and dominance, will your enemies see you as vulnerable? But something interesting happens. The kingdom doesn't become weaker, it becomes stronger. Because a leader who admits his limitations and learns from his mistakes is actually more effective than one who pretends to be infallible. The advisors feel free to give honest counsel instead of just telling the king what he wants to hear. The generals develop better strategies because they're encouraged to think for themselves rather than just follow orders blindly. And the enemies of Babylon, they're not sure what to make of this new king. Some see the humility as weakness and plot to attack, but when they do, they find that Nebuchadnezzar hasn't lost his strategic mind or his military strength. He's just using them with wisdom now, fighting only when necessary, seeking peace when possible, but never backing down when Babylon's security is genuinely threatened. One day, a neighboring king comes to visit. He's heard the stories about Nebuchadnezzar's transformation, and he's curious. Are they true? Or are they just propaganda of some kind? They sit together in the palace garden, not in the throne room, where everything is formal and political, but in a place where they can speak honestly. "I heard you went mad," the visiting king says bluntly, "that you lived like an animal for years. Is it true?" Nebuchadnezzar could be offended. He could deny it. He could have this king thrown out for his impertinence, but instead, he nods. "Every word is true. I lost my mind completely. I ate grass. I slept in the rain. I lived no better than the cattle in the field for 7 years." The visiting king leans back, studying him. "And yet you sit here now, ruling the greatest empire on earth. How?" "I was restored," Nebuchadnezzar says simply, "by the same power that humbled me. The Most High God, who rules over all kingdoms, decided my time of judgment was complete. He gave me back my mind, my throne, my position, not because I earned it back, but because that was his decree. And what did you learn? The visiting king asks. There's genuine curiosity in his voice now. No mockery, no superiority, just a desire to understand. Nebuchadnezzar thinks for a long moment before answering. I learned that there are only two ways to gain wisdom, the easy way and the hard way. The easy way is to listen when you're warned, to humble yourself before you're forced to be humble, to recognize truth when it's spoken to you. The hard way is to ignore all of that and learn through suffering, through losing everything, through being broken down to nothing and built back up. He looks directly at the visiting king. I chose the hard way, but I'm telling you my story so that you can choose the easy way. Listen to the truth. Recognize that you're not as powerful as you think you are. Understand that all your success depends on factors beyond your control, and honor the one who controls those factors. The visiting king is quiet for a long time. When he leaves Babylon a few days later, he takes Nebuchadnezzar's words with him. And some say that kingdom becomes known for its just and humble leadership, that the lesson learned in Babylon spreads to other places, other courts, other kings. This is the power of a transformed life. It doesn't just change you, it changes everyone you influence. And a king's influence is vast indeed. Years pass. Nebuchadnezzar grows old. His hair turns grey. His strength diminishes. The man who once could lead armies into battle now moves slowly through his palace, leaning on a staff. But his mind remains sharp, and his memory of what happened to him never fades. If anything, it becomes clearer with time, more precious, more central to his identity. When young nobles come to him for advice, he doesn't tell them stories about his military victories. He tells them about the field, about humility, about the danger of pride. Some of them listen, some of them don't. He can't control that, but he can make sure the lesson is available to anyone willing to hear it. One evening, near the end of his life, Daniel comes to visit him. They're both old men now. They've watched kingdoms rise and fall. They've seen the cycles of human pride and divine judgment play out over and over. Do you ever regret it? Daniel asks. The 7 years, the humiliation, the loss. Nebuchadnezzar considers the question carefully. Regret is a strange word, he finally says. Do I wish I had listened to you the first time? Absolutely. Do I wish I had humbled myself voluntarily instead of being forced into it? Yes. But do I regret what I learned? Do I regret becoming the man I became because of it? No, never. He looks up at the stars appearing in the darkening sky. I ruled for many years before that happened. I conquered nations. I built wonders. And I was empty, hollow. I thought I was full of myself, but really I was empty of anything meaningful. After I was filled with something real, something true, something that couldn't be taken away by circumstances or time or death. Daniel nods. He understands. He's always understood. Your story will outlive you, Daniel says quietly. Thousands of years from now, people will still tell the story of the king who was humbled and restored. And some of them will learn the lesson without having to experience what you experienced. Then it was worth it, Nebuchadnezzar says. All of it. If even one person chooses humility because of what happened to me, then 7 years of eating grass was a small price to pay. Chapter 9. The legacy that crosses centuries. Nebuchadnezzar's story didn't end when he died. In many ways, it was just beginning, because a life lived and lessons learned don't disappear when the person is gone. They ripple forward through time, touching people who will never meet the original person, but who are changed by their story nonetheless. The account that Nebuchadnezzar ordered to be written down was preserved, copied, shared. It became part of the sacred texts that people studied, not because Nebuchadnezzar was considered holy, but because his story illustrated a truth that every generation needs to hear. Pride comes before a fall, but mercy can follow judgment. No matter how far you fall, restoration is possible. Not through your own strength, but through surrendering to the one who controls all things. Over the centuries, people read Nebuchadnezzar's story and saw themselves in it. The successful businessman who thought he built his company entirely through his own genius. The political leader who thought her power was permanent and unconditional. The talented artist who thought his gifts made him superior to others. The wealthy person who thought her money made her secure against anything the universe could throw at her. Different people, different circumstances, but the same core problem, the same dangerous pride, the same forgetting that we're all dependent on factors beyond our control. And some of them, reading about a king who went mad for 7 years, made different choices. They chose humility before it was forced on them. They acknowledged their dependence instead of pretending to be self-sufficient. They gave credit where credit was due instead of hoarding all the glory for themselves. Did all of them do this? Of course not. Human nature doesn't change just because we have good examples to learn from. Every generation has people who think they're the exception, who believe that the rules that apply to everyone else don't apply to them, who are certain that their pride is justified, while everyone else's is not. But some did learn, and those ripples of wisdom spread. A person who learns from Nebuchadnezzar's story treats their employees differently. Those employees go home and treat their families differently. Those children grow up with healthier perspectives and pass them on to their children. One transformed life touches 10 lives, touches 100, touches 1,000. This is why stories matter, why we tell them and retell them, why we gather around fires, literal or metaphorical, and share the accounts of people who learned something important. Not to worship those people, but to learn from them, to let their experience become our education. Nebuchadnezzar's Babylon eventually fell. All empires do. The walls crumbled, the hanging gardens withered, the golden gates tarnished. Centuries later, archaeologists would dig through the ruins, trying to piece together what this great civilization was like. But the story didn't crumble. It didn't wither. It didn't tarnish. It remained sharp and clear and relevant, because the truth it contains isn't bound to a specific time or place. It's a human truth, universal, timeless. What's particularly powerful about Nebuchadnezzar's story is that he told it himself. He didn't try to hide what happened. He didn't have his scribes write a sanitized version that made him look good. He owned it, all of it. The pride, the judgment, the humiliation, the grace. That kind of honesty is rare, especially in powerful people. Most leaders want to project infallibility. They want people to think they never make mistakes, never have doubts, never experience failure, because they think that's what leadership looks like. But Nebuchadnezzar discovered something deeper. Real leadership is having the strength to be vulnerable, the courage to admit you were wrong, the humility to share your failures so others can learn from them. In our modern world, we have countless examples of leaders who fall because of pride. Politicians who think they're above the law, business executives who think they're too smart to fail, celebrities who think their talent exempts them from basic human decency, religious leaders who think their position makes them infallible. And we watch them fall, sometimes spectacularly, sometimes tragically. And we shake our heads and wonder how they didn't see it coming. But if we're honest, we recognize that same tendency in ourselves. Maybe not on a global scale. Maybe we'll never rule an empire or lead millions of people. But in our own circles, in our own spheres of influence, we face the same temptations. To take credit we don't deserve, to forget the help we received, to believe our success is entirely our own doing. Nebuchadnezzar's story is a mirror. It shows us what that path leads to. Not always literally living like an animal for 7 years, but always some form of fall, some form of loss, some moment when reality crashes through our delusions and forces us to see the truth. The question is, will we learn the easy way or the hard way? Will we choose humility voluntarily, or will it be forced upon us? Will we look at Nebuchadnezzar's experience and say, I don't want to learn that lesson the way he did, and make different choices now? This is why the story was preserved, why it was written down and copied and shared across cultures and centuries. Because it offers us the easy way, the chance to learn from someone else's hard way, the opportunity to gain wisdom without having to lose our minds first. Chapter 10. What this ancient story teaches us today. So what do we take from this? What does an ancient story about a Babylonian king have to teach us in the modern world? Everything. First, it teaches us about the nature of power. Real power doesn't come from dominating others. It doesn't come from accumulating wealth or building monuments or conquering territories. Real power comes from understanding your place in the larger order of things. From knowing what you control and what you don't. From using your influence to serve something greater than yourself. Nebuchadnezzar thought power meant everyone bowing to him. He learned that true power meant him bowing to the source of all authority. And paradoxically, when he learned to bow, he became a better king than he ever was when he demanded everyone bow to him. Second, it teaches us about change. Real change is possible. Not easy, not quick, but possible. Nebuchadnezzar was one of the most prideful men who ever lived. If he could change, if he could be transformed from a narcissistic tyrant into a humble servant leader, then change is available to anyone. But notice how that change happened. Not through self-improvement techniques, not through trying harder or making resolutions, through being broken, through hitting bottom, through losing everything that he thought made him valuable and discovering what real value looked like. That's uncomfortable. We want to believe we can change without the pain, that we can learn humility while holding on to our pride, that we can be transformed while remaining fundamentally the same. But Nebuchadnezzar's story suggests that real transformation requires real surrender, complete surrender, the kind that feels like death, because in a way, it is. Death to the old self, the false self, the self built on lies and pride and self-deception. Third, It teaches us about second chances. The story doesn't end with judgment, it ends with restoration. Nebuchadnezzar loses everything, yes, but he gets it back, not because he earned it, not because he deserved it, but because mercy is greater than judgment. This is crucial, because many of us are walking around carrying the weight of past failures, past prideful moments, times when we were wrong and suffered the consequences. And we think that's the end of our story, that we're defined forever by our worst moment or our biggest failure. But Nebuchadnezzar's story says no. The fall isn't the end, it's the middle. If you learn from it, if you let it change you, if you come out of it different than you went in, then restoration is possible. New chapters are available. The story continues. Fourth, it teaches us about wisdom. There's a difference between information and wisdom. Nebuchadnezzar had all the information. Daniel told him exactly what would happen if he didn't change. But information without transformation is useless. It's wisdom only when it changes how you live. We live in an age of incredible information. We can access more knowledge in an instant than any ancient king could have accessed in a lifetime. But are we wise? Do we learn from the mistakes of others? Do we take warnings seriously? Or do we think we're the exception? Fifth, it teaches us about time. 7 times, 7 years. That's a long time to live in judgment, a long time to wait for restoration. But the story insists that there was purpose in the timing. Nebuchadnezzar needed those 7 years. Not 7 days, not 7 months, 7 years. Because some lessons can only be learned slowly. Some transformations can only happen over time. We want instant results, quick fixes, rapid transformation. But real change happens at the pace it needs to happen. And sometimes that pace feels maddeningly slow. Sometimes we have to sit with our consequences longer than we think is fair. But if it's producing real change, if it's creating actual transformation, then the time isn't wasted, it's invested. Finally, this story teaches us about purpose. Nebuchadnezzar's 7 years of madness weren't meaningless suffering. They had a purpose: to break his pride, to teach him truth, to transform him into someone who could be a true leader rather than just a powerful tyrant. And ultimately, to create a story that would teach millions of people across thousands of years. Your struggles have purpose too. The times when you feel broken, when you've lost things you thought you needed, when you're forced to face truths about yourself you'd rather avoid. Those aren't meaningless accidents. They're opportunities, invitations to learn, chances to become someone better than who you were. The question is, will you let them transform you? Or will you just wait for them to pass so you can go back to being who you were before? Nebuchadnezzar chose transformation. He let the experience change him. He didn't just endure it, he learned from it. And because of that choice, his story didn't end in a field eating grass. It ended on a throne, wiser and better than before. And it continues even now, teaching anyone willing to listen. So as you drift off to sleep tonight, think about your own life. Where are you clinging to pride? Where are you taking credit that should be shared? Where are you pretending to have control you don't really have? Where are you resisting humility because you think it makes you weak? And then ask yourself, do I want to learn the easy way or the hard way? Do I want to choose humility now or wait until it's forced on me? The story of Nebuchadnezzar gives you that choice. It's the gift of his hard lesson. You can learn from what he experienced without having to experience it yourself. That's the power of story. That's why we tell them. That's why this particular story has survived for thousands of years and will continue to survive for thousands more. Because the truth it contains is eternal. Pride destroys. Humility heals. Judgment is real. Mercy is greater. Change is possible. Second chances exist. And no matter how far you fall, there's always a way back up. If you walk in pride, you will be humbled. But if you choose humility, you'll discover strength you never knew existed. Not the false strength of domination and control, but the real strength of wisdom, peace, and purpose. This is the lesson of the king who lost his mind and found his soul. The lesson of the tree that was cut down but grew again. The lesson of the throne that was emptied and refilled. The lesson of judgment that led to mercy. Learn it. Apply it. Let it change you. And when you do, you'll discover what Nebuchadnezzar discovered. That the greatest power isn't found in ruling others. It's found in surrendering yourself to the one who rules all. Sleep well. And may you wake with the wisdom that only humility can bring. Thank you for journeying through this ancient story with me. If it touched you, share it with someone who needs to hear it. Subscribe for more stories that teach, inspire, and help you rest well. And remember, you're never too far gone for transformation. Never too proud to be humbled. Never too lost to be found. Until next time, may you walk in wisdom and rest in peace.